Well, my guests, thank you so much for joining me today for our Sphere of Influence SOI, also known as the Swiftest Opportunity for Income. Let's jump right in. Would I be correct in assuming that everybody here wants a stronger, more powerful referral network? Yeah? Mm-hmm. I think I've never run across an agent who said, no, I don't want my friends to buy real estate from me, right? I would prefer strangers. But we also know that achieving that requires developing and implementing an action plan. So let's begin preparing for the opportunity. We'll begin with this definition of next generation network building. And please just take a moment to read this and absorb it. That is a mouthful. So if you would please, remember it's been a while maybe since some of you have been in class, but if you would take a moment, activate your pointer tool and point to what you see are the key words in this statement. So activate your pointer, please, and just point to the key words. Hi, Francis, who says systematizing. I like that. Terry says process. Those two are connected, aren't they? Ha, 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 ha. Well, what else do you see hidden in here of value? Charles says process. Beth says systematizing. So we have a theme here, don't we? Systematizing processes and a plan. Beautiful. That pretty much summarizes it. And here, in simple terms, it's just working a planned, value-based prospecting and marketing campaign. Ha. So next generation building, this network building, involves both prospecting and marketing. Because, hey, we all know, prospecting tends to kind of focus on now business, doesn't it? And then marketing attracts business over time. And top performers recognize that they have to be active in both. Low performers are often focused on just one or the other. So they've learned to kind of intertwine their prospecting and marketing across multiple sources and continually add names to their sphere of influence. This is what next generation networking building is, and we're going to take it to the next level in this course today. So I imagine we'd all agree that there are elements of our business that are within and not within our control, some that certainly aren't. And how many of you, let me erase these green check marks, how many of you have what I would call a level market? In other words, seasonality is not a factor. Would you give me a green check mark if that is you? You have a level market, seasonality is not a factor. So Beth and Connie, that's really kind of cool, isn't it? The rest of us experience like these seasonal changes and regular increases or decreased in activity based on the time of year. And so for those of us who seasonality does come into play, that's a factor that's outside our control. And then economic cycles, when you bring that in, recession, prosperity, sellers markets, buyers markets, all those things come into play as well. Hey, Donna, now your mic's working.
Yes.
Go ahead and mute when you're ready. Greetings to you.
Okay.
Good to hear you. So, in other words, there are ebbs and flows in nearly every market. And in our cyclical business, these have always run their course, and they always are. So once again, there are things we can control, things we can't. Then here's something that's entirely under our control. Lead generation. Consistency or inconsistency in lead generation. Because when you compound the effects of seasonality, of economic cycles, we make it way worse with inconsistent lead generation, right? So when you are inconsistent, what happens to your business? regardless of how good or bad the market is, if you're not consistent in lead generation, what's going to happen? Yep, it's not stable. Thank you, Fadja. It's just not going to be stable, exactly. And then, what's likely is that we'll then maybe, it's a bad outcome because we may be even out of business. So we want to make sure that we don't have that happen. So lead generation that's consistent can bring more stability regardless of the conditions by evening out the ups and downs of that market, right? And we understand, again, we can only control what we can control. What do you think, if it's that simple then, if it's as simple as consistent lead generation, what causes us or our efforts to plateau? Please raise your hand. What do you think? What are some things that cause us to still plateau out? Maybe we've all kind of been there, so raise your hand. What do you think? Why do we plateau out if it's as simple as just being consistent? Connie, take the floor. You can just unmute yourself by clicking on it. I'll unmute you, Connie. So what say you?
A lot of times I think we plateau because the number of agents in a small community and being a new agent in that community.
Good point. Takes a while to build your name, and you've got a lot of competition then?
Right.
Okay, good point. That's a good point. Beth, what do you think?
I find that sometimes I'll plateau if I'm really, really busy, and then all those deals close because I kind of stop working on the prospecting or the reaching out, and I don't have that steady backlog in there, and then I'll plateau for a little bit and then panic and then keep going.
The roller coaster effect, huh? Yeah. Good point. So, Beth, how can you get out of or minimize your plateaus then? What do you then do?
I think for me, it's setting up a structure where something is more, more steady. I mean, for me, I just came back out of management, back to selling. So I have to get back to something steady where I have a system in place where I'm consistently prospecting to my sphere of influence, because that's where I get the majority of my business from. And they all know I'm here, but I need to have something that's consistent and almost easy so that I don't have to think about it. So I need some kind of system set up like that.
Thank you. Very insightful. Thank you, Beth. So you'll see several aspects of lead generation, several sources in this graphics. Please point just for a moment, activate your pointer and point to your go-to tried and true method of lead generation, what you usually go right to. And remember to activate those pointers, just single left click on that pointer tool. Sphere of influence, Terry said expireds. You're rocking the expireds, by the way, Terry. Connie said, I'm circle prospecting. Charles is listings and marketing. Bill says right there in the middle, that's sphere of influence. And we're going to come back to this topic later, but from now, just kind of some perspective on attitude. As you know, and I've shared this with you before, in developing our courses, and this one is no different, we've interviewed a number of top producing agents within our brand, Century 21, to learn about their systems and their best practices. So during this process, we noted several common attitudes shared by these top performers, wherever their business is coming from. And here they are. As you look at these, what are your personal thoughts or insights given these? What are your own attitudes? We have time to kind of hear who would speak to this one. Network building is to my business as gas is to my car. I heard a hand go up. Feel free to unmute yourself. Hey, Francis. Oh, wait, I have to. No, there you go. Sorry about that, Francis. Hi to you.
Consistency. And just like anybody else, at one point in time when you get a lot of things happening, a lot of buyers, a lot of sellers, And contracts, like 2 weeks ago, I had 4 contracts in 24 hours. You kind of lose, excuse me, you kind of lose that working through your time blocking. And sometimes it takes a while, and I still haven't gotten quite back to it to get back into that. And then you have to go back in and get that consistency again of doing the 2-3 hours of time blocking every day for your leads. That's the hardest part, is to keep that consistency going.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Who would speak to this one? The more I give, the more I get back. What does that say to you? The more I give, the more I give back. Get back in your business. What do you think? I think some of you are being a little, how shall I say, you don't want to brag, but I know in having you in my classes and listening to your perspectives, you are all, and I think that is, maybe something we have common in Century 21. We really do exude this, don't we? The more we give, the more you really get back. And Catherine, why don't I unmute you and you speak to that? I'd rather hear you. Would that be okay? By the way, welcome to you. Green check mark if I may call on you, Catherine. Hey, Bill. Hi to you. What do you say about that, Bill?
Am I unmuted now?
You sure are.
Okay. I wasn't sure how that button worked. I think as I've gone along, I think as you age and you start figuring out more about what life is about. I'm only 52. I don't make it sound like I'm really old, but you're looking for ways to give influence around you and to provide leadership to things you care about. And I think as you do those things, people look to you for other things. So, I mean, you're not necessarily out there providing, yes, we provide leadership in real estate, but we're providing leadership in our community, and you're providing, the skills and gifts that you have to your community, and then people look to you for what you do too. So it's almost like a secondary thing. The giving back is very, very important, though.
Very good point. Very well said. And Francis said, I agree. And Catherine, thanks for weighing in. Thank you, Bill. You can mute yourself when you're ready. And then, of course, opportunities are infinite when systems are in place. Would anyone like to speak to that? I don't want to beg it out of you, but if you have something you'd like to share, feel free. Just raise your hand. Francis.
Opportunities are definitely infinite when your system is in place. That's properly. You always get those leads. You think, oh, it's a bad lead because they're not responding to your voicemails and emails and et cetera, et cetera. But if you have a system in place that makes it work over the long term, then 2 years from now, 3 years from now, that person is calling you when they walk in the office and say, where's Francis? I need to buy a house. I'm here. And you have not heard from them or anything. And the only way you can do that is by having a system in place, but by having a system in place that you can personalize. So it's not just emails being sent out by the CRM or Zap. It's not just, oh, I'm sending you these listings. Is it still good? Blah, blah, blah. But it's adding things like seasonal, even though you've never talked to them before, you act and work with them as if it was personalized, but that system has to be there to allow you to do that.
Oh, good. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you. And back to his point earlier about consistency is key. So as we see that what we've learned from the experts, my database really does fuel my business, and I never want to run out of gas. Prospecting and marketing are part of, their priority number one on my calendar. Their attitude is providing consistent value and service to stay top of mind in all our relationships. They calendar an auto plan so it can be set, an annual plan so it can be set to autopilot. And of course, we know all the time to get results and stick with my program for long enough to evaluate results. And that was beautifully illustrated by Francis. So finally, all of these come together through repetitive tasks, They're done consistently over time, so that when, as he illustrated, you're somebody in your sphere of influence that you stayed in contact with, when they're ready to buy or sell, you're ready to be there with them. So by embracing these attitudes and applying them in your business, you can take years off your own learning curve and fast track your success. So in addition to these 4 successes, top performers share 4 key tactics and tools. And they're common among top performers, but uncommon in other circles. Number 1, they run their numbers. Number 2, they calendar for success. 3, build a database. And 4, speak with scripts. And we're going to discuss these in greater detail as we move through the session today. But we begin with number 1, which is running your numbers. And I hope all of you know your sleep number. If you do, would you please give me a green check mark if you ran that and you know your sleep number? I just need to get a quick lay of the land. Green check mark if you ran that. Hi, Kyra. Glad you're here. Okay, so good. And if you know that number, just for fun, would you mind putting it in the chat window? If you're comfortable sharing it with the group, just feel free to put that sleep number in the chat window. I'd be curious. And remember, your sleep number is going to be calculated, for those of you who didn't complete it yet, it's calculated by the goal projector, that e-learning tutorial I sent you a link for. And it's a calculator that's designed to kind of help you find that number. So I'd really encourage you to complete that after class today. You'll find it in the university. We have it placed now under Virtual Lead Gen 21 course in the resource page. Thank you. So good. It feels good to know that number, don't you? Not very systematic. That's one of the biggest challenges in real estate, isn't it? So knowing this, it gives you, I think, a really valuable frame of reference on what the day needs to look like. And when you look at this first question, what happens when you've reached your sleep number? How do you feel about that? When you know you've gotten the prospecting done, you feel a relief, Catherine says. Elated, Terry says, for sure. Then I feel productive. I feel relaxed. Then, how about when you don't? How do you feel when you don't hit your sleep number? Frustrated? Disappointed? Non-compliant and usually okay with it. Never-ending to-do list. Like the world's going to fall apart. Yeah, to me, it often feels like, the unpleasant option of not reaching it sets me up for, I don't sleep well. I worry about it. I have to then, add more, pile on more, if you will, to what I didn't do yesterday for tomorrow. So, and as Francis says, you need to kind of reset. By knowing this number, it's actually really empowering because it guides us so we know with more clarity what we really do need to do. So as you look at that, here's kind of a reminder of we looked at your estimated bills. You plugged in your savings, the funds you need for goals that you have in mind. So you know what your financial goal is. And then you got to your sleep number by calculating through here. And that's, again, I think, a number of real empowerment. That being said, now let's talk a little bit about the next aspect. So we've run our numbers. We're clear on that. We know what needs to be done. Now let's shift our focus to the second tool, which is calendaring for success. Look, real estate's a business with a lot of moving parts. So let's type in the chat, what are the tasks that you do daily? As you list them in the chat, I'll put them on the board for us. So what are some of the things that we do daily? urgent. We have follow-up, good point. I check the MLS hot sheets. Make calls. Check email. Angela, you're welcome to add to this. Just type right up there. CO. Babysit the pending files. I love that. That's very true. I do some marketing. I socialize a lot. I check on FSBOs. Maintain listings, thank you. Okay, so which of these, activate our pointers, which of these are high priority? Activate your pointer, which of these are high priority? Maintain listings under contract files. It looks jumbled to you? Sorry. So the blueprint says maintain listings and under contract files. Then we have recruiting, text. Hey, thank you. We have managers weighing in there. So my question to you then is, does your to-do list, if you will, is it really a mirror of your goals, right? Because we want to make sure our priorities and activities are aligned with our goals. So the key, as many of us know, is got to be to prioritize. And so the key word in priority 1 is finding, right? The activities that are directly related to finding new business. They're a top priority. When you make network building your priority 1 and get those activities done first, results will follow. Me too, Donna. Then priority 2, that's the activities that are directly related to closing sales. And then think of priority 3 as setting priorities. You know, it's all about making choices about the use of our most precious resource, which is our time. Beware of time traps that derail even the tightest of plans, the best of intentions, including your priorities. And interestingly, as we look at agents across the country, a lot of times they're spending 80% of their day doing activities that are priority 2 and 3, rather than the other way around. So, you know, there are many pitfalls, one of which is Parkinson's law. And work expands to fill the time that's allotted for its completion. You know, we sit down to do what maybe should be like a 5-minute task, and the next thing you know, it's taken an hour. So for example, like you go into that inbox, right? You go into your email inbox to check for important email. The next thing you know, you're looking at your friends' videos, the cat videos, or Home Depot or Banana Republic ads, and then you look at the clock and an hour has transpired. You know, assign the right amount of time to the task. That way, you'll have much more time available to accomplishing your true goals and be more productive. Most tasks need to be completed professionally and efficiently. They do not need to be elevated to perfection. The second one is my favorite, which is the cape theory. This is a tendency to abandon our priorities and do things that make us feel like a superhero. And look, I know a lot of what we do, to serve buyers and sellers we have to do because we have to get them over the finish line. I get that. But some things that we end up doing are just simply because we love to put on that cape and come flying to the rescue. Sometimes it isn't even critical. We just enjoy doing it. We even seek it out. So how do we minimize these forces? Starts with awareness of the pitfalls. Then making conscious choices to guard these key times on your calendar to maximize your return on every minute invested. So let's explore some tips to help you do that. Really successful people have the same 24 hours a day as everybody else. It's how they use their time that makes all the difference. And our first step is to make others aware of our money time. That high dollar value rate, some of you may know your hourly rate when you are prospecting. Averagely, remember, I figured it out once, it was like $267 an hour that your time is worth when you are making those calls, making that, really spending it in money time. So you got to turn distractions off during that time. Of course, you have to adjust for reality. I know that things happen, that come up that interfere with it. The key is, though, not to just pick up where you left off, but make up for the time, and don't let any single fire disrupt your routine. So for deeper insight, you'll find some additional notes in your participant manual. There's really a lot of cool stuff in your manual, and there's space for you to write down your strategies for the addressing of things like the what ifs that come up during your lead generation time. So I'll encourage you to look at that later. Now, to answer the question you might be asking yourself, how much time do I really need to allot for these contacts? And just to be clear, contact is a face-to-face or voice-to-voice communication to offer value and ask for business. That is the guidelines for what a contact is. It's not a voicemail, it's not an email, right? So the amount of time each day attributed to building your network depends on how much time it takes you to make the number of contacts you need to reach, DOI. So looking back at lines 13 and 15 of your goal projector, you now can determine the amount of time you need to reach your sleep number goal. So we calculated it at about 10 minutes per contact. And I know some people are going to want to chat, but remember, these are business calls. Keep them focused and push longer discussions into an appointment. And when calculating this time, just kind of a side note, take into consideration that it's often not just the minutes spent in conversation, but the time that it takes for like messages, callbacks, all that, right? All the time you attribute to this depends on the type of contact that you're making, how you're making them. This is just an estimate. And a tip here, you can schedule for opportunity, not only minutes. I know agents who make calls until they get the appointment. And Faja said, look, I got to pay attention to, they have to be quality calls. So some days you'll get lucky, you'll get all your prospecting numbers done early. Other days, not so much. You have, that's really going to be up to you to structure it. Determine your own best schedule. Maybe you'll use a weekly planner or, use your phone for scheduling. Because we all know what's been scheduled gets heard, right? Gets done. And in that strong list of contacts and consistently staying in touch, you're going to get good results. So any questions before we move on from that? Questions or insight you'd like to share? Still raise your hand. Third of 4 is build a database. When a single lead can result in multiple zeros on your commission check, it deserves to be handled with the utmost care. Yet, I heard somebody talk about organization. We get busy, we get scattered. We don't fully utilize one of our most basic critical tools we have, and that's our database. Once we really get organized, we can get more business from our leads and we can spend less time doing it. So the best database really is the one you'll use, right? So if you have questions about that, obviously, talk with your broker or those around your office. The fourth and final tactic is speak with scripts. And real estate is a relationship-built business, and these relationships are built on communication. Our words are our most effective tool. When you're not worried about what you're going to say, you can focus on listening, right? So this allows you to achieve that. And let's acknowledge something just for fun. If you would, please, because we know that, some agents don't like scripts. They never use them. So activate your pointer tool, claim a spot anywhere up there on the screen, and I'd like you to write down why you think agents don't like scripts. What's their aversion to them? What's their excuse for not using them? Just generally speaking, it doesn't have to be your personal aversion, but what do you hear around the office? I don't have time. Hey, Charles, you can change your yellow to a different color by going up to that yellow box and switching it out. Feels canned. 2 people have said canned. Afraid to practice or role play with others. Good point. Not personalized. Jennifer, I see you down there. They don't take the time to make it their words. Exactly. So, are any of these, a reason to not use scripts? Of course not. But there is a sequence to successfully using them. And that is, when it comes to scripts, and let me kind of go back here so you can put it in perspective. The first is really to learn them. And by learning them, we write them down, we say them aloud, record ourselves. Then we burn them into our brain by role play, as was mentioned earlier, present them without looking, practice daily so they become part of you, and then finally turn them into your own words by adapting to the prospect, the market, and to you. And speaking of scripts, do you think you'll feel a little more confident about picking up the phone when you're empowered by the confidence that you know what to say? You think? Me too. Okay. We work in a business of highs and lows. The highs are great and the lows can be real lows. And when that happens, it's easy to slide into what we call head trash. So as you look at these, maybe one speaks to you. If so, feel free to activate your pointer. Do any of these sound familiar? What's your go-to when you want to have head trash? What one makes the most sense to you? Where do you see yourself? Yep, that's a big one, isn't it? I'm only calling because I want their business. What if there's an axe murderer on the other side? I'm too new. I hear that one a lot too. I'm too new. I have enough business to keep busy. That's an interesting one. Like self-limiting, huh? Thank you, and thank you for your willingness to kind of share that. Remember, hey, look, it's normal, I think, to have these self-doubts and second thoughts. So briefly, let's kind of explore some ways to get rid of that. First is to let your inner light shine. Remind yourself of the value that you bring to customers and clients. Second, identify it. When you're experiencing it, think of yourself as a problem solver. Just recognize, this is my head trash. I am not some sort of interloper. I am a good quality agent. I am a problem solver. Deal with the discomfort. When you do what you fear, the fear goes away, period. Then, of course, reframe your thoughts. Real estate is about making contacts. Throw out the excuses. Thank you, Fatya. The magic really does happen when you get outside that comfort zone and you keep stepping outside of it long enough for your brain to adjust to the new normal. And there's a lot more information in your workbook, so I hope you'll spend some time there. Page 16, 17, right in there. so that it'll help you throughout this head trash. So we've covered that. Now, part 2 of our session today is really centering your network on your sphere of influence, because we've gotten rid of all the reasons not to talk to people. We have an organized calendar. We know the numbers that we need a number of the numbers we need to know anyway. So let's move on and begin putting this all together. If you were to separate the people into 2 categories that you know, you'd have your acquaintances and you'd have your sphere, right? The acquaintances are just people that they don't care that you're in real estate. They see you once in a blue moon and they're probably not in your CRM. Your sphere are those people who get value from you and your real estate expertise. You're in touch with them, or should be, through a variety of methods and on a consistent basis. And their data should be in an effective action plan, not just in your database sitting there floating around, but assigned to an action plan. And to have a thriving business, we got to be proactive in converting these acquaintances to our sphere of influence, right? And if you're not fully convinced yet, take a look at some compelling statistics. Look at this. 85% of sellers said they definitely or probably recommend their agent for future services. 90% of buyers said they would. 63% of sellers found their agent through referral or a friend, neighbor, or a relative, or used the agent they'd worked with before. 53% of buyers found their agents in that manner. And here's a number that may surprise you. 12% of sellers and 11% of buyers use the same agent again. Now, I may not be the sharpest tool in the shed, but why do you think this number is what it is? Because I'm smart enough to figure out that a seller moves out of town or an agent retires. What's the rest of the gap? Yeah, no contact. So I look at it, though, Terry, as the glass is half full. Somebody else isn't staying in touch, so I will. If they are your past clients, you better be staying in touch, right? And Kyra said, but also they might not have had an extraordinary experience. So they're thinking, they're not special. I'll look on. Point well taken. You do. You got to keep top of mind. I interrupted somebody. Hey, Cliff, you were going to weigh in. I heard you there for a second, Cliff, but now I don't. Okay. So let's help you with a 6-step system that will help you create your own strategy, and we're going to call it the next generation path. And as you can see, guess what? There's an order and a flow to the process. It was said by a couple of you earlier, I need systems, I need processes, I need to be organized. Here it is. We're going to do it, right? This will be the balance of our session together. You're probably thinking, we're just now getting to this juicy part. Okay, step 1, back to running your numbers. This begins by calculating your own sphere of influence rate of return. That's why I asked you to gather a few numbers when you came today. Because look when you're considering making an investment in your business, whether it's financial, time, resources, it's helpful to project the return on that investment, right? In this case, the rate of return from your sphere of influence. And we're going to work together through some numbers to help you in just a bit. But first, let's look at some of the background and definitions to help us. Your sphere of influence conversion rate defines how many SOI contacts you need to generate a transaction. So, according to NAR, the average conversion rate of any lead per agent is about 0.4 to 1% and 0.2. According to the self-reported data from Realogy agents, the conversion rate is right at about 4.5. So it goes without, we can see the numbers. Conversion rates for the sphere of influence are higher than the average conversion rates from other sources. And the larger the database, the better the conversion numbers. And we can see that as we look at the screen. And the size of a properly worked database is going to correspond to the number of closed transactions that you get from that sphere of influence. So let's look at some more calculations that will really help us. The first is, we'll fill in, if you have a pencil and a calculator handy in your workbook. Look, we know that it takes more than your sphere of influence to reach your goals. But think about this for a minute before we kind of calculate through this, okay? Your sphere of influence really is your most lucrative and higher conversion rate source of leads. So for now, we're just going to kind of focus on that. We've created this example to help you with this, and you're going to want to calculate these for yourself as we go through this worksheet. So as we start, we have the number of transactions that came from your sphere of influence last year. So you'll plug that number in. And Carrie shared with me earlier, 65% of her business this last 12 months came from her sphere of influence. So it's good to know that number. Then number 2 is the number of people we have in our database under our sphere of influence. So plug that number, and you can estimate it because it's just kind of fun to play with the numbers. So about how many people are in your database. Then the rate of return. So the rate of your conversion rate just is taken from how many deals you did from your sphere divided by how many people are in there, and this agent has about a 5% return. It'll be fun for you to do these. Now, I want to pause right here because we're going to take this as though this agent wanted 100% of their business to come from their sphere of influence. This doesn't negate what you did in the goal projector, because some of you are thinking, now what? All we're doing is extrapolating the what if. What if I decided I wanted all 25 transactions that I want to do this year to come out of my sphere of influence? Based on my sphere of influence number, what does this need to look like? So at number 5, I'm going to fill in the 100% number. Why not have fun with it? Some of you may have 10, you may have some other number, but for now, let's just play this out for simplification of I'm going to pull all I can out of that sphere of influence. So the number of transactions I need divided by line 3, my conversion rate, gives me the number of contacts I'd need for all of my transaction to come from my sphere of influence. Now don't panic here. It's not like tomorrow, right? It's over the course of a year. So over and above my 200 contacts, I'm going to need, if I want to pull it all from my sphere of influence, I'm going to need an additional 300 contacts, right? To reach my goal. So when I calculate how many weeks I'm going to work, times, let's say 5 days a week, I come up with 240 days. And remember, we are not going to put 50 weeks. We're going to try to keep that at about 45 or 48 weeks. Maybe you work 4 or 5 days a week, whatever that is that you're prospecting. So calculate that. Then by dividing line 7, or excuse me, by line 7 by 8, I know that I need to make 1.2 contacts per day, new contacts, not calling the same old friends every day, right? Then line 10 reveals the number of touch points per day to my new and existing contacts. Now, what does this mean to you? Let's kind of sort this out. Some of you, when you looked at this 300, what, I got to have 500 more, more contacts. When it really boils down, it's talking to a couple of people every day. Now, when you go back and look at the goal projector that you did, right? This isn't on top of that. This is extrapolating out of our existing sphere of influence how many contacts we need to be reaching out to our database each day. Does that kind of make sense? Green check mark if that resonates. Red X if you're thinking, wait a second, you're losing me. Isn't this cool? So, in other words, there's a gold mine. Yay! There's a gold mine inside our existing database. I won't have to spend the rest of my life calling expireds, Terry. Isn't that the best news, like, of all day? But I will have to grow my database to do that. Now, here's where the rubber meets the road, though. If I do spread these out evenly, and it takes me a whole year, yeah, got it, Kyra. If it takes a whole year to reach those additional 300 contacts, am I going to reach my goal? How can I position this so that I'm more quickly on track? Because to me, this is an important, juicy part. And I think I'm maybe not asking the question very well. Let me ask you this. Would I be further ahead by front-end loading as many contacts as I could right now to get myself on track? And Francis says, I got to plan how I'm going to find them. Good point. So all I'm saying is, everybody, I do want to create an awareness that if this isn't going to ramp up tomorrow, I've got to set in course a plan to maybe front end load some of that so that I'm not put at risk by putting all of my eggs in one basket. So for now, Francis, to answer your question, I'm going to have to plan that I can convert some of my expireds, right, Terry Woodward? Am I going to convert some of the expireds that I'm calling to business and then into my sphere of influence? Am I going to? Yeah. Am I going to add some of the people, the FISBOs that I'm calling right now? Am I going to convert those quickly by really staying on track with my overall with my overall prospecting numbers so that I'm on track? Hopefully I kind of made my point, because I don't want to put you at risk by thinking all you got to do is call a couple of people today. We got to front end load this. Does that make sense? Okay, we're good? All right, let's move on then. I think that's empowering. I hope you do that, and I'll be curious what you come up with. Okay, step 2 then is add to your database, because Francis got us started thinking about that. Man, I got to come up with some more people to talk to. Where am I going to start? The obvious, I think, is to add people who may be overlooked in all your other categories. Once you start a strategy to plan and secure and remain top of mind, you can add all these past clients to your FISBOs, your expireds, and so on. The idea here is to exponentially grow your database, moving them from the left hand to the right hand. We're going to add all these people. In other words, we're moving our acquainteds, we're moving our prospects. Our goal is all these people in our database to be moving forward toward our real sphere of influence. And by the way, you're probably already using a digital database. If so, it contains all an assortment of kinds of connections. And if not, today's a good day to do it. Because if you're using an Excel spreadsheet or Outlook or things like that to organize, you're going to want to kind of step up. So a tip here too if you're just beginning this process, don't dump people into your CRM. Every single contact should have a designated action plan associated with it. Because it doesn't do you any good to have a database full of names with no plan, what to do with them. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. So systematizing is part of the natural evolution of a top producing agent, DOI. And systematizing your network allows you to communicate with everybody in your database consistently and as often as is according to your plan. So we've suggested that you divide your people into 3 categories, and you may want to name them something else, but we like the raving fans, the past clients, and everybody else. And when you look at raving fans, these are people who actively talk about your services and recommend others to you. They're most likely your smallest group of people, but they're significant. Some of them have never used your services before. They just know you and they're your raving fan. Then this second bucket of communication is your past clients. And some of you are thinking, well, wait a second. Some of my past clients are my raving fans. Yeah, but there's some in there who aren't, right? And we want to move them up. And then everybody else includes all the people you know who think of you in a favorable light, but they just don't fit into levels 1 or 2. Maybe they're your spouse's coworkers or members of organizations or groups that you're a part of. You do business with them, like your doctor, your mechanic, your landscaper. They almost always need to be prompted to refer you. The communication plan for this strategy is to create opportunities for engagement that'll drive them into categories 1 and 2. Yeah. So what are the advantages that you could see in quartiling, if you will, or dividing your contacts this way? Because some of you do this. What advantage does it give you? For those of you who quartile it, unmute yourself. Why do you do that? Yeah. Hey, Terry, would you send that to all participants? Terry said, to know who to keep in touch with the most. Yeah. Because there are some people in there that are the real movers and shakers, aren't they? They talk to a lot of people, other people who not so much. So, great point. Now that you have a clear sense of these 3 categories, let's apply this by kind of giving you a chance to categorize your own numbers. Now, just in pages 26, 27, in the next 1 minute, please list as many raving fans as you can think of. So put them in page 27, just list their names as fast as they come to you. I'll give you 60 seconds. Start now. Bye, Alma. Thanks for coming. Okay, what'd you come up with? Be just kind of fun to know. Terry said, I found a couple that came right to my head. Nine, Coolaroo, Catherine. Now, Thomas says 5. Hi, Thomas. Here's here's the reason I'm asking you this, because it's insightful. Those people are there for a reason, aren't they? Francis, that's awesome. The first question is, how do I know this person? The second and more important is, how did they become a raving fan? Because there might be some patterns, right? Is there a diversity in ways in which we met them? So as you look at your list, what are your own observations? Where did your raving fans come from? Put your thoughts in the chat line. Where did these raving fans come from? How did they percolate to the top? They're my past clients. Thank you, Bill. They're my family, past clients. Because I think there really is a pattern, everybody. Because if you can recognize the pattern, we can then replicate it to expand our raving fan base, right? If we're really cognizant of the patterns here, we'll discover ways that we can convert people into raving fans. Good point. Long-term communication. They became clients, then they became friends. Beautiful. So I hope this will kind of help you begin to categorize your own individual numbers and members of your sphere. But, you know, for this to have real value, you need to continue this process. I hope you'll set aside some time this week to go through your database and sort each contact out and think about them. The Kondo effect, right? Just kidding. And we'll talk about creating a customized plan for each category in a few minutes. Of course, the more we know about people in our sphere, the more opportunities will appear for making connections. And you're going to get their contact information, but also be thinking, what social media platforms do they use? What are their interests? What about their family members, their hobbies? What is our connection? What else do each of you track in terms of the data that you gather about your sphere of influence? What else do you pull that helps you relate or be relatable, I guess I should say, with people in your database? Things that they celebrate are important to them, aren't they? Common interests, things they like to do. Yeah, thank you, Kyra. Good point. And adapting their communication style, I think, is big, isn't it? Maybe you're an email person, maybe them not so much. Charity work, birthdays, excellent. So again, maybe even thinking out of the box a little, looking for ways to be relevant, to be of value in this equation. Now we can turn to step 3, inventory items of value. Catherine wants to ask the question, how do you get their birthdays on past clients? Who would give her a suggestion? How do you get this information? It's probably on their closing papers too. Spokio. Ooh, Terry, that's good. Ask them. Look on Facebook. When I took a copy of their ID back in my archived files, I'll go back and look. Fadia said at their first meeting. Oh, true that is, Bill. The title company. So some things to kind of think about. And you know your past clients. I mean, we're not stalkers. Title agency won't release it. Go to Spokio, Catherine. So remember, this is an infinite loop, and marketing and prospecting, again, work together to build this top-of-mind awareness and preference and to help you close for appointments and business. The more value you provide, the easier it is to layer your prospecting calls around compelling marketing content that creates opportunities for meaningful engagements and appointments for you. So we have two goals in mind when we share value. First, our goal is really to get the appointment. A relationship starter, because remember when we worked on a relationship starter campaign, that provides the opportunity to contact these people over multiple touches to get the appointment or a referral, then build the relationship to stay top of mind. The relationship builder campaign keeps you in touch with your sphere because you become synonymous in their mind with real estate, but as a friend too. So both for their needs, their real estate needs, and their friendship. So because when you're top of mind, they will alert you to their own real estate needs, but also they will refer their friends to you. So let's group source a list of items of value that that you use, that are practical, that are usable, effective options to reach out to people in your sphere of influence. So think in terms of what you use. I'm going to create a whiteboard here. So claim a spot along the left-hand margin. Let's just put our ideas of things that we provide of value, whether it's a newsletter, whatever that is. And if you know its location, it might be helpful, like if it's in 21 Online, or if it's an outside source or a website that you use or whatever that is, that's what location is designed for. So we'll pool our ideas. Market updates, excellent. And I can find that kind of, there are, of course, my MLS. Some brokerages provide that. Trend graphics you can subscribe to find it. I send a magazine to all past clients, in or out of town. Cool. Share my knowledge, my experience, my education. Quick reminder, once you type your response, if you press enter and then move your mouse out of the way just to kind of reposition it, it will show. Value sheets to my farm every other month. Ooh, for what sold. I open those like right away. I love stuff like that. Seasonal cards, CRM for emailing just sold lists. Local real estate newspaper column. I like that too. Information that prompts them to think about buying or selling. Golden. Maybe like market trend reports. What about even like seasonal tips? Do any of you send those out? You know, like now how to get your house ready for spring, stuff like that. What do we call that? Tips? Social page. You share it on your social page. Good. quarterly home maintenance. I like that, Jennifer. Stuff like that's interesting. What is PCC? I'm horrible with acronyms.
Preferred Client Club.
Oh, Preferred Client Club, our great old friend. Thank you. I've always called it the Preferred Client Club. I never thought of the acronym. That's embarrassing. Yeah, good. These are good starts. Thank you. Now on to step 4, building our calendar. Back to the calendar thing. Because to ensure effective ongoing contact with everybody in there, we see 3 elements. We see the frequency, we see the duration, and then, of course, the infinity loop or touch points can be a lot of variety. That's why we kind of made that list of things. So you'll find an example with blended prospecting and marketing layers in your workbook on page 31, so you kind of get where we're going with this. Calls, texts, face-to-face contact, of course, are an integral part of this, but it's way deeper than that. So now we have an opportunity with our group in building out, because I want you to leave with something important. I'm going to build out a 12-month relationship campaign for your assigned category. And I'm going to divide you into 3 groups. Looks like my producer left. He bagged out on me. I'm going to divide you into 3 groups. Group 1 will be in charge of creating just a broad stroke 12-month plan for raving fans. Group 2 will be in charge of past clients. And Group 3 will be everybody else. So here's all I'm asking you to do. Is map out a year, including how many touches and whether it will be a call, a send, or other. And then you can record it on the whiteboard. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then when you come back to the group, bring your whiteboard with you. And let me show you what that kind of looks like, okay? So when I'm going to give you the ability to save things. So when you end your breakout session, presenters, all you have to do is say yes to save session file and save it as a PDF. That way I can send it to everybody. Okay, got it. And send it to everybody after our session. Okay, so I'll share with you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to make 3 big rooms. It's going to take me a minute. So just start thinking about what, your group. I'll assign them when I get back. Just give me a minute to form this. I'll be right back. Okay, Angela, Charles, and Francis, I've asked you to head up your teams. Would you give me a green check mark if you'd be willing to do that? Thank you, Charles. Angela, excellent. Okay, so we're going to spend, I think it'll take you about 15 minutes to build this out. And then when I bring you all back, once again, you'll share your findings with the group by by saving your whiteboard. We're just going to try this out. It could be a gong show, but I think it's going to be really fun because at the end of the day, then you'll have something that you can take with you so that you have a program, a strategy, okay? I'm going to start the rooms right now, and I will see you in about 15 minutes. Dave and I will be stepping in to make sure everybody's room is up and going. For those of you I know Terry Jackson will be unable to join the breakout session. June, we're going to try to see if we can get you in there. Regrettably, that device might not go in, but we're going to give it a shot, okay? So in any case, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. I'm going to launch the rooms right now. Have fun. Have it a great collaboration. Angela has started her room, so watch for the prompts. So is Charles and Francis, so you should be getting prompts right away.
Hi, everybody. It's Francis. How are you? Jennifer, can you hear me? Thomas, I see that your mic is working. We're good?
Yeah, mine is
Okay.
okay.
Hi, Francis.
Jennifer, John, Kara, can you guys unmute yourselves?
Hello, hello. Can y'all hear me?
That's Kara. Good to go. John?
Okay, I'm here.
Can you
All
go
right.
to your room?
Jennifer, you there? All right, well, we'll start.
Jennifer, if you
We
could.
are breakout session 3, so we are dealing with everybody else. My favorites. Frankly, last year, all but 3 of my buyers came from people who've been in my system over a year. So it is a system that you really have to learn how to work it. Jennifer, you have any ideas as to what you would do or what you are doing for everybody else type leads?
I'm fairly new, so I don't have a lot of experience with that.
Is there something that somebody, a mentor or a broker, has told you that you think is a great idea?
Well, we have some of our agents that do, I guess they call them pop buys, that the people that they're not getting in contact with that aren't picking up the phones or are harder to convert. They stop by their houses when they think they're not home and leave them gifts with little information and cards. And I've heard from some of the agents that that's been working for them.
Interesting. John, how about you?
So what's the question again, please?
What is one of the things that you use for these everybody else leads, like this lead that has just, is in the system, but it's not a raving fan or a past client?
Okay, so I put them on Business Builder, and they get a market update newsletter once a month, and it's automated. And I believe with Business Builder, there's no end cycle with that as well. So that just continues to work in the background. And in addition to that, we just started sending video market updates via text message. So we'll do a video and then we'll send it via text.
Teach me more.
And what do you do in that video? You do the
updates,
or you do some other local color or something?
We do a market update and we make it under 30 seconds, just giving them a real broad view of where the market is headed.
Nice.
So we text a
Kara?
video.
Kara, you there? Terry?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I use the programs in the Century 21.
So Zap?
Everybody Zap, and try and put everybody on a program that comes in. So it's automatic. I don't seem to get much out of it, but
Okay. And Thomas, how about you?
I'll mention it was Jennifer's idea. I was surprised the direction that went in to stop by when they're not home, and I kind of like that idea. But I think the objective is to get them moved up. So to say, I haven't been in touch with you, and here's something of value, either a market report or whatever, or just a small gift to say, hey, I been thinking about you.
Thinking about you gift. All right. So in my case, these leads, now I'm the Zap trainer here in my office, and a lot of our agents, they have this attitude is the system will take care of it, but you have to learn how to do personalized touches amidst the emails, the text, the voicemails. Personalized, can't even spell that. And I did an experiment early this year where for a month, I just let the system handle those leads without making phone calls, voicemails, sending listings, all that kind of stuff. And I went from 180 active listings to under 100. So I went from numbers in Zap to high, very high, blah, blah, blah. And by adding those personal touches, you're able to create that rapport that you get, which you can't do just by letting the system handle it. So I like, popping by somebody's house. I like sending that market update because they have that, and that video, that sounds like a great idea. Now, who typed in Christmas wine and box of chocolates? Kyra, was that you? No? Because that's something I actually do at closing. When I bring people to closing, I'll do a wine and fruit basket or food basket, but not during the year when I think about it, which to my high raving fans, I probably should, because they do give me enough business to more than make up for it. Anybody want to add anything to there? Terry, Thomas, John, Jennifer? Thomas, do you want to add anything to our notes here?
No, I think nothing offhand that we haven't covered. So.
Yeah, because everybody else is difficult because they're literally, people we've never communicated with or may have had an email from them or something like that. Yep, absolutely. Call follow-up, simple but effective. I would add to that you should do, here, let me type this out. New voicemail message every month. So even if you do contact them every other month or once a quarter for these types of leads, you should have a different voicemail every time so that you're not repeating that same voicemail and they're not hearing the same voicemail. Oops. Click, boom. All right. And I actually write it down and I read it off as if it was a script. Mass texting service. Yes. Here's a trick. I don't know how many of you know this, but if you send a text to a phone number or to an email, if you don't have a phone number and you send a text to the email, if it's an Apple user, you will get their phone number when they respond to it. So that's just a little trick for those of us who have leads without phone numbers. But yes, mass texting, most of us, I know I view email as a waste of time, but texting, I seem to get way more responses. So I love that mass texting ideas that you guys are putting in there.
You're saying send a text to...
If you go to your Zap app and you click send a text and you send it through the email, if they respond, they'll respond and Apple phones will give you their phone number.
Okay.
Yeah. But texting is definitely the way to go right now. We just don't, you open your email in the morning and you have 500 emails. And where's the business in there? And if we're looking for the business, what are people on the other end who aren't looking for business, who are just wanting their email and they're, delete all. Terry, did you say something?
No, I sure didn't. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. I heard somebody say something. Anybody else have any notes we can put on here? So when you say mass calling service, you're talking slide dial, right? I'm assuming.
Well, that's what I use if I want to use that as the slide dial.
Yeah, I use slide dial when I'm doing holiday voicemail, such as Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, 4th of July. Friend them on Facebook and ask them to like your business page. Absolutely. That's a great idea. We don't use social media nearly enough. So any tips and tricks that anybody who's been here for a number of years on how to, I call it waking up these leads, these no number zap leads?
Well, I try and go through them every now and again, and I should have a set schedule for that, but I don't. But go through all of my stuff in Zap and send them an email, how are you doing? What are you doing? That sort of thing.
Okay, so what I do with mine, so I have 3 groups of leads, right? You have the high actives, the medium actives, and you have the no actives or no information leads. I time block. So Mondays, I do my high actives for 2 hours. Tuesdays, I do my mid actives. Wednesday and Friday and Thursday, I do my no actives. So literally, I could do like 40 voicemails in that period of time because 99% of the time, you're not going to get an answer from any of them. But by having them in a time block like that, if somebody goes from 0 to a low active, and I'm going through that day and I see a number beside somebody, I know that that person was a 0 and they've now become active. So it's a little trick by having them in these separate blocks of days that when something is different, so for example, you get a mid-active, all of a sudden becomes a 0. Well, that means that they've gone to that point where they're just not doing anything. And you either try to wake them back up or you put them into the 0 category. But if you see a 0 in the days that you're supposed to have nothing but zeros and they're now a number, then you know that somebody is woken up for some reason. They're like, ooh, they may actually become a high active very quickly because they went from doing nothing to actually looking at the website, looking at listings. So as a trick, time blocking and only using a certain day for a certain type of lead when you put the reminder in the future, really, really, really helpful in terms of the movement of your leads in the Zap number system. Anybody else can add to systems and how to help Terry categorize things so that it makes it more efficient for her? No?
I sometimes find that there is so much information out there as far as systems to do every little thing that you have to sort out and find what works best for you. It's like scripts. I finally had to settle on one particular script to learn and stop looking at everything that was out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've been in business 18 years, and I use scripts for everything. I write down my voicemail, so I'm reading it as I'm saying the voicemail, even though I don't have to. But what happens is, you lose energy. So you're reading a voicemail instead of going, "Hey, this is Francis," just following up on that listing that I sent you the other day. Now all of a sudden you're saying, "Hi, this is Francis here at C21." And I'm just following up. So you know that you're losing your energy. The voicemail is not going to sound good. And so you just, by having scripts and making them personalized, it makes it so much easier, especially if you're in a communication and a conversation where you're trying to keep them coming back and fresh because you want to be fresh. Any final thoughts, anybody? Nope. Okay, I think we're coming to that 15 minutes. So let's, let me get out there and then we'll save this white.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. Team leaders, you may get a prompt that says, will you like to share your session? I'm requesting it right now, so bear with me a moment. Should pop up on your screen. If not, I did a screen capture. Okay, we have one whiteboard up. It sounded like you had a really good discussion and we're really sharing great ideas. Thank you very much. So let's kind of see what we came up with. Here's our Raving Fans group. Looks great. And by the way, I will send these to you. It just gets your creative energies flowing and deciding on what this needs to look like, because when you leave class today, I would encourage you to build out a 12-month plan for each of these categories. You have a great start right here from the Raving Fans team. We have our past client teams. They're going to use their preferred client list, business builder they're going to use. And our group 3, no, this, I think it was the other way around. This is group 2. This is the past clients group. They had time and really built it out well too. Thank you. So I'll be sure that you get these. And hey, thanks for being part of this pilot. You never know exactly how it's going to work, whether an idea you have actually worked in reality. So thank you for being part of this, really. And we're not at the end of class, but I wanted to thank you for helping us do this exercise, complete it, so that we can see if there is value in it. So thank you very much. And I hope you had a great time in your conversations. Did anything come out of your breakout groups that you'd like to share with the entire group? If so, feel free to raise your hand. Anything that was compelling enough you'd like to bring to the group? Francis.
Oops. I think the big one for us is, because we're dealing with the 0 leads in Zap, is communication and how to do it, and text. Coming up with text, communication with text. One of them said they do a video that they then send out to their clients via text, because that's just, everybody has their phone and everybody looks at text, and it's usually they react to it really quickly. I thought that was a great idea, and I know I don't use it, so I'm going to put that and add that to my systems.
Oh, it's great. Isn't it fun to learn from other people? It's something that you can use. That's great. Thank you. Anyone else? Good. Thanks, everybody. All right. As we move on to number 5, get the business, this really is there a program for video to text people? Who would like to speak to that? Thank you, Bill. That's a great question. I'd like to have Terry address that first, and then we'll go up to Francis. Terry?
Well, I didn't use a program. I just made a video of myself, introducing myself. I use it for when someone calls me about a listing or a lead or something, and it's, hi, this is me. You know, this is it, 22 seconds long. It just talks about who I am, and I look forward to working with you. So that's all I did.
Terry, by the way, I've seen that, and it's really good because it gives a face to the name, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's a great idea. Francis.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can.
Okay, so what Thomas did, I believe it was Thomas, he created a video with the market changes that are happening in the market and sending it out so that he's actually sending information, not just personal, hi, this is Thomas, but a personal information for the area. And if we're looking at buyers coming in from out of area, that's a great idea because they can see that the market's changing, prices are going up or down. I thought that was a great idea.
Good point. Very good point. Thank you. And thank you, Thomas, also. I used a program called BombBomb, and it's specifically for email, but you can do, the cool thing about BombBomb and other programs like it is if you do the video, you can upload it to a BCC'd group of people, and through the dashboard, you can, so for example, let's say you did a market update. Here's what the market's doing. Here's the trend I see happening, etc. You can see from your dashboard who's viewed it, how long they stayed in it. You can, and for a group, let's say for long-term buyers, they're ways off that you're just kind of drip campaigning on. It allows you to see who's really engaging in those. So there's a lot of ways to use video. Thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. All right, now we bottom line it, right? It's all about getting the business. And this is where we invest time and effort into the following 4 steps, which is, again, run the numbers, add to your database, inventory the items of value, and build your calendar. Get business, again, is the ultimate objective, because that's the whole point of this. And, to get business, we first have to get the appointment. Top performers are experts at this. When the conversation leads to a potential buyer or seller, you want to start by determining their time frame. Get to the win. Because the faster they need to act, the faster you want to act yourself, right? So ask the magic question to determine their time frame. Then, equally as important, have them project themselves into the positive future with you in it. So this will position you in their mind as their agent that they'll work with to achieve their goal moving forward. So maybe to a potential buyer, the question is, if the world was perfect, when would I be handing you the keys to your new house? Or to a seller, if the world was perfect, when would I be congratulating on you on your successful sale? So it's designed to have the prospect frame the circumstances under which they'd see themselves moving forward. So it really kind of helps you frame that. And as NAR statistics in the 2018 profile of home buyers and sellers, get this, if you haven't heard it before, 75% of sellers and 68% of buyers will work with the first agent they meet with. Not met at an open house, sent property matches, but met with. Your goal is to be the agent that meets with them. And of course, the timeline once again comes into it, because the shorter the timeline, the greater the urgency. When they're ready to go, ask for the appointment. There's some simple and effective scripts on page 37 to help you with that. But there are also 2 other categories. The first is not ready yet, and the second is ready to wait. If they're not ready yet, ask for the appointment. Really? Why would you do this? Why would you ask for an appointment with somebody who's not ready to move yet? What value would there be to them in meeting with you, even if they weren't ready? Not the value to you, because we know that. What would be the value to them? Yeah, help them prepare. Thank you, Bill. Exactly. And to kind of maybe what else? Not only will they be prepared, yeah, so they know the process. You build that rapport and trust, and they may be more ready than they've admitted. Good point. Soft interview for an agent. Yeah. So to me, you got nothing to lose, everybody. If they say no, not yet, create a systematic communication plan based on their timeline, but it never hurts to ask for the appointment, right? But in the meantime, stay top of mind, provide them value. The idea is to progressively be moving through your sales funnel so they end up at your desk when they're ready to make a decision. So for prospects who are ready to wait, there's a move in their future. They just don't know what it looks like yet. So again, offer value, stay in top of mind, ask for the appointment again when it's appropriate. So as we look at this form, kind of maybe from a different vantage point, as a result of your infinity loop, your relationship campaign, you'll identify prospective buyers and sellers. Some will be ready to go, a bunch won't. 90, 180 days, maybe more than that. If they're not ready to move yet, fold them into a focused plan using face-to-face, phone-to-phone, other medias. That's why we kind of made our list, right? Because systematizing this process will not only make you more efficient, but it will make sure no one gets overlooked. If you build out action plans for both buyers and sellers based on kind of their time frame, you'll be there when they're ready. You'll get the business. Then our final step on the next generation path is number 6, set to autopilot. Let the system do the work, not you. And it doesn't mean walk away from it. It just means you manage and maintain the system you've put in place. Your system will benefit from continuous refinement. It's not going to be perfect now, but there's that old saying, production beats perfection. Here's a case where it does. So you'll kind of check on your results and make the necessary adjustments. You'll find in some cases better items of value or refine even those and add to them. So you'll run the numbers, repeat what's working, promote and update your items of value, nurture the relationships, and track your results. So let's look forward. We've achieved a lot today. Please, if you would, take a few moments to mark your accomplishments in your workbook on page 41. I'll give you a moment to think about those. And before you go back to your prospecting or whatever you have going on today, I have a request about what you're seeing on the screen now. If you see holes you need to plug, would you please write down in that box when you're going to start, when you're going to put it on your calendar? Because a lot of times in a class like this, there's sort of the law of diminishing intent. When you have an awareness, you think, oh man, I have to get on that. But if you don't calendar, it sort of really, really soon becomes a distant memory. And before you know it, like in a week or so, it's like, I was going to do something after I went to that class. What was that? So where appropriate, maybe put right now when I'm going to start that, when I'm going to calendar it to work on.
So true.
And as we near the conclusion of our session, I propose another challenge for you, and that is to find your motivation. Work on and share your value proposition. Use affirmations, power poses to keep in the right mindset. Surround yourself with like thinkers. Scrub your contacts. Remain those. I don't believe in just throwing away names. Why not reclaim them? And if you can't, then scrub them from your database and add and tag new ones. Master your scripts, internalize them, find yourself a role play partner to practice with. Big one, make your contacts. Ask for business. The most brilliant plan is going to be worthless if it isn't implemented. Nothing's going to happen until you make your contacts and ask for business. Of course, track your results. My favorite is through RE Scoreboard. So I hope you're up to the challenge. You'll find several, by the way, sample scripts at the very end of your workbook on pages 44 through 47. Remember, learn them, burn them, turn them. Final question. Please take just a few moments to write one positive takeaway from our session today in the chat line. One positive thing you took away. I hope there's something. You never know with my pilots, right? I really hope sincerely that there is a takeaway for you. Come up with my raving fans list. Thank you, Bill. My 12-month planner. Keep yourself positive. Yay, Jennifer, always. By the way, I'll be emailing the action plans each group came up with later today for you so you can get started. Do it. Thank you, Francis. Great. Keep going, Terry said. Yeah, you got to. Schedule the time with an accountability partner. Hi, John. That's great. Thank you. Your level of my level of motivation never disappoints. Sweet. Thank you. Yep, we're going to come up with 12-month plans, everybody. Now, by the way, as we part company today, there are no secrets to success. It's a result of preparation, hard work, and learning from failure, right? It really is. What a joy and pleasure to get to spend time with you again, everyone. It's just so nice to see your names on my screen. I hope you'll stay in touch. I hope you'll be well. Thanks for participating today. As you leave the session, I have a survey request because we use your feedback in perfecting our classes, in making them what will drive people to come to the classes to make their lives better. So if you wouldn't mind, please take the few moments that it takes to fill out the survey. It's going to I've just now populated the chat with it. It says pilotc21evals.com. Please take a moment to fill that out. And I want to be respectful of your time. You've honored me by spending this time today. I won't keep you one more moment unless you have questions or would like to visit. Thanks, everybody. My joy and pleasure. Thanks for coming today. Bye for now. I hope our paths cross again soon. I'll remain here for questions if you have them. Don't hesitate to raise your hand if you do. If not, I'll see you next time. My joy. Great to see you. Yeah, Eric. Let me get your question. Let me open your mic for you.